Morning guys, Forristicat here. Today I wanted to record my thoughts, having, even though a little bit late, just watched the season finale of Fox's TV show Touch, starring Kiefer Sutherland amongst a younger actor called David Mazouz, I believe, playing his son Jake. Now, quite a while ago, I recorded my thoughts on the upcoming show, and I want the show to be good. So as much as I like watching action movies, fantasy, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, whatever in fandom, every once in a while I don't mind watching like one of these sort of like more quote unquote family type of movies. Like variety is the spice of life, right? Like everything in moderation. However, I also wanted to bring in the topic alongside of insulting the viewer's intelligence, which, as you can probably guess, happened a lot during the show. So first of all, just as a background to the show, Jake is a character who is the son of Kiefer Sutherland's character, Martin Baum, and he suffers from autism. Throughout the course of the series, we learn that Jake has some sort of special power or ability to see connections where other people can't see connections. Now this is similar to, I guess, Mercury Rising or savants in certain episodes. I can't remember what other, some TV show where there was like a savant, and I think naturalistically, like medically as well, that like savants have some sort of like extra processing ability in the brain or something like that. So he sees patterns in nature where there are patterns in nature, and to a fantastical extent, which is the premise for this whole TV show, patterns and connections between people. So I thought episode 1, which deals with the connections and sort of introduces like the power that Jake has, I thought that episode 1 was just above average, like the pilot episode. I thought that the writing was sort of like you didn't know exactly how it would come together, so it was a little bit sort of like interesting because you weren't like slapped right in the face with what's going to happen. Throughout the course of the series, we find out like other power factors are at play, and that people want, the age of story, people want like to use, even though like they haven't gone to it yet, obviously I'm guessing like they must want Jake to view these connections and see these connections and tell someone bad, that these connections are here, and for someone else to use them for other ulterior bad motives. So that's how the series sort of develops, like of Martin sort of trying to grab custody back from his son when this agency is trying to take him away. Another big character point plot is his wife. Martin's wife died in the September 11th attacks, and this other firefighter guy had the chance to rescue her and meet her, and there's a sort of like connection between him, the firefighter guy, and Martin Baum, which goes on for a little while, and they brought that back in the season finale, which I watched yesterday. And every single episode pretty much just has Jake doing these random things, walking off, not saying anything, and the main thing is Jake never touches anyone. And as soon as someone touches him, he freaks the hell out. He goes, all post along him. However, the first episode ended well, with Martin saying, like, you've been trying to talk to me this whole time. I haven't been listening to you, but I can hear you now. It's like raining. I'm like, okay, wow, that's a little bit touching. But what happened from that point on was a very copy and paste script. This is like from the guy Tim Kring, which created Heroes. So I could sort of see like in some of the design elements, like the opening sequences is pretty good. It's very like sickeningly heartwarming, if you will, or like very sort of feel good, like with this music in the background showing people from around the world and stuff. yeah, I like stuff that takes like a global sort of perspective on things, sort of like links everything together. It's, how like that's why I think I like 24 so much. Like we just saw like all the different screens, like how like everyone's just off doing their own things, sort of thing. And that's another problem with the show, is that it's almost like Kiefer Sutherland is like, he shines in the scenes where he becomes Jack Bau, when he's like shouting with the gun in his hand. That happened in the season finale, and it was pretty funny because Mike Novick from 24 is actually in this show as well, and it's very jarring to see them both on screen together and not being in 24. And he saves Mike Novick's, the actor's, whatever his character's name in the show is, he saves his life, and then he comes back to buy a gun off him, and he buys a gun and he forgets to take the bullets. And then when you see like Martin like point the gun and like not know how to use it, and like he's scared, and like he like gets taken down by, like any time where like Kiefer Sutherland gets his ass kicked, it's like a joke. It's like literally like, it's almost like I think I'm like watching like a parody of 24 or something like that, because in my head I've seen so much of him as Jack Bau that he is Jack Bau. And I'm going to assume that that's some of the risk that actors take with sort of becoming immortalized in certain roles, that no matter what other sort of role they take, the people from that point onwards can't suspend disbelief enough to realize that this is another TV series and that the character is a brand new character. Well, that's what happened with me in this case anyway. But nevertheless, back to the main show. So there's a lot of numbers in this show, and the writing is very in your face, not giving you time to work it out in a subtle way at all. And this is the major problem with the series, is that literally you feel stupid when you're watching them. I mean, shows like this have to be done in a subtle way, right? Like when you watch a mystery movie, for example, you want to sort of when you work out who did it at the end, you want to be like, okay, so that's what happened. You don't want to be like, oh duh, of course that's what happened. What do they think, I am stupid? Unfortunately, it was the latter, what do you think, I'm stupid reaction which got provoked from me. So take some movies like Sleuth with Michael Caine. You feel satisfied after watching it because your intelligence is not insulted. Like, they assume that you are intelligent enough to work out the pieces. However, with this show, they're assuming you're not intelligent enough, so they're force feeding you everything, like numbers in your face, very obvious references, close-up camera shots. Like every single scene is like Martin going 3:15. That was the number of the train. Oh my god, boom, like after the other scene. Except they reuse that thing every single time. So it became very boring very quickly. Another good movie which I must recommend, because I know some talkbackers are into time travel movies, is about a month or so ago I watched this movie called Time Crimes, aka Los Crímenes. Sorry about that, that's a Spanish bad pronunciation. Yeah, made in 2007, so type it into IMDb, Time Crimes 2007. This is the best Back to the Future notwithstanding. This is the best like time travel movie I've seen ever. It's very smart. I can't recommend it highly enough. Like, if you haven't not watched Crimes, you should see it. I'm not just saying that. Like, watch it, and trust me, you'll thank me afterwards. And people who have seen it are probably going to post below. Yeah, Time Crimes is an awesome film. Yeah, that's another example of like something in fandom which doesn't insult our intelligence. And I think that for fandom to be good, it has to not insult our intelligence, and that's the problem. Like, as I mentioned in, I think, my storytelling and what it means for fandom talkback, most people in this world are stupid. Governments have to treat us stupid because most of the people don't have like a basic intelligence or understanding of concepts, so everything has to be watered down, like in a herp derp herder sort of like quality. And okay, fair enough with government because they're dealing with external people, but don't let sloppy things taint fandom, which when it's at its best is so special and sacred and unbelievable that you really thank whoever made the piece of fandom for trusting in themselves and in us to actually realize and understand all the basic fundamentals and principles which what makes storytelling, that piece of fandom, that piece of work which you just encountered, great. Yeah, which is not the case with touch, because as I said, many of the scenes are sort of very obvious connections. Like you see like one face, then later on, like in the next scene, you'll see like a person like looking at that like the face in like a camera or something like that. You see like like a number or something, and again like the number is right there. It's just a very basic sort of like thread to follow every single episode of how everything is connected together and how everything is linked. But it's not done in a smart way. It's done in like a repetitive way, and it's done in a way which is very boring and not entertaining on any level. Like it's just like I said, it's just too smack bang in your face. So I thought that this was sort of going to be done in a sort of like smart way where it's not immediately obvious what's going on. The trailers sort of, well, that's the job of trailers, to portray anything in the best light possible, which is more than I can say for my lighting here, which is crazy because there's a shadow across the thing because I opened up the blinds over there. But nevertheless, that's what they did. They sort of went down the watered down, option, and it really does show. And if you're watching this with your family or whatever, whatever, like you're not gonna really nitpick it. And I'm not saying that your family are stupid or whatever, but nevertheless, you should probably not watch Touch. Like I had an open mind to it, but I think once again, like I'm just having too high hopes sometimes for these things, and like my criteria is a masterpiece. Like that's I want everything to be a masterpiece, but masterpieces are few and far between. And I guess if everything was a masterpiece or perfectly written, it would not. It wouldn't be a masterpiece because it would be a commodity. But nevertheless, Touch. Just to wrap up, guy has a son. Son is autistic. Finds connections in numbers, patterns, life events, and does things which slowly lead to the people either meeting each other, resolving an issue, a flaw and effect, which in general changes people's relationship and people themselves for the better. But what brings it down is the fact that it's been done many times before, and the only way that this can be good is if it's done in a smart, intelligent, engaging way, which it is not, because everything is sort of like done up front, in your face, very obvious number references, which they can only do that pretty much with these number references, like, oh, that number was used there. You can't do that unless it's very, very subtle or something you work out yourself, because it's like, it's like if I held up a sign like, oh, here's number 27, and then like I turn the camera around and there's someone out there like with number 27 on their back, and then the webcam zooms in on their number and it says 27. And it's like, what are you meant to do? Like, oh my god, that number that Forristicat held up, that's the same number as over there. Wow, that's a connection there. You see, like what intelligence is used to work that out? It has to be done in a non-obvious way, which gives the people something to work for and would make the series much more enjoyable overall. Having said that, there are a couple of touching scenes, mainly towards the first half of the season, like the episode 1, like how the guy's daughter is died. One guy's daughter died. He has photos on a camera phone, and the phone ends up in somewhere where it gets right next to like a building, which whatever you have on your phone gets transmitted onto the building. And what happened was, like, these people who had his phone, and the guy's daughter who died wasn't even aware that he was near these other guys. These other guys like projected these photos of the daughter, because they liked the photo, up onto these massive sort of like this massive building nearby. And as a result, like, he's like sort of just standing around, and like he looks up and he sees like photographs of his daughter's face. That scene did get to me. But yeah, there's also too many other sort of like references to guys doing music and trying to break it into the music world, and then boom, all of a sudden, it works out for them. And just in general, not enough time for us to care about these connections which are being made. And I think you can only do that unless you can only do that if you don't have those connection made. If you have like very exceptionally good actors, like extreme good actors, that you sort of like get sucked in so quickly that you waive that time period which is needed for making these connections in the first place. Okay, so I'm going to go to work now. I'm going to try and see how many numbers I can see, and see what other connections I can make between people. Forristicat signing off. Touch disappointing. That's all I can say. Jack Bau, where the hell have you gone?